Hello there, McDonald Gurura here, and I'm super excited that we're embarking on this journey of life, journey of learning, and we are gleaning information and wisdom from those that have gone ahead of the curve. Today I'm privileged and honored to have in studio Mr. Patrick Devenish, who is the past chairman of the Royal Harare Golf Club, among many other heads, including the chairman of the TIMB, as well as First Capital Bank. Patrick, I know you're a busy man, but thank you so much for taking time to be with me today.
My pleasure, McDonald. Thank you.
Fantastic. Now, Patrick, to just really start off this conversation, tell us a bit about your journey from where you think is ideal to start to where you are today.
Well, I began my life in the tobacco business. Started off as a ticket marker and then became an auctioneer and ended up as managing director of tobacco sales floor, which in those days, which have been massively superseded, in those days tobacco was a big business and we had a lot of fun. It was mostly commercial farmers. Today it's mostly smallholder farmers. From there I moved to Seedco, where I was a group chief executive. We had a lot of fun taking Seedco to the region. I ended up then running ACO, which is now no longer listed, but that was a listed entity that owned Seedco, Kotco and Olivine. And since then I've had a few other jobs, assignments that I've done.
Fantastic. Looking at your career, what would you say, I know this is a very difficult question, but which would you say has been your highest point of success?
I think Seedco was my highest point of success. I took over Seedco in 2002, which was at the early stages of land reform. The company was largely local, the production was all local, and we lost our grower base with the commercial farmers no longer being on their farms. So we had to rebuild the grower base, and we realized that we had to move into the region. So we took the company to the region, starting with Zambia, Malawi. We did what we called contiguous expansion, moved to Zambia, moved to Malawi, so moved to all the adjacent countries. I think Seedco today under Morgan & Zweri is probably in about 15, 16 African countries. They've got massively successful research and development programs, and probably the biggest seed company in Africa. So for me, that was probably the most interesting and exciting thing I've done.
Now let's look at the other extreme end, where you would reckon that this was my low point, my point of failing.
I think that would be ACO. As I said, ACO owns Seedco, Kotco and Olivine. Seedco was a very successful company. Kotco at that time had been a very successful company, producing, I think our first crop in 2012 was 350 million kilos of seed cotton. And then the other business was Olivine, both of which we had government as partners. In those days, government was very careful with the way they spent money. And Kotco ultimately failed as a business because of side marketing. People who did not fund the production of cotton ended up buying that cotton, so Kotco basically failed. And Olivine was slightly different in that it was a fantastic business, but it needed capital, and government said they were unable to put capital into the business. And the reason I'm telling you that story is my failure was the power of persuasion.
Okay.
I was not persuasive enough to say to our partners, government, guys, we've got to do things differently at Kotco. Guys, we have to inject capital into Olivine, even if it means you being diluted. So there was a pretty high point and a pretty low point. We ultimately had to unbundle ACO, make them 3 separate entities, and there we are.
And we can never neglect the impact of government involvement in business. In your experience over the years, how would you reckon this has been working out in the Zimbabwean dynamic?
Well, I think there have been mixed successes. As I say, Kotco in the mid-20s, 2010, 12, 14, was not successful. But I think in recent years, agriculture in particular has been massively successful, thanks to the efforts of government and our minister and his team. So I think government have really done well. They have encouraged huge success. They are building dams. They are promoting irrigation. So I think that's an area where government have been massively successful.
Fantastic. Now, looking at the dynamic of your personal life and your meteoric rise in business, what would you say are some of the fundamentals that you stuck to that have led you, from being a ticket marker to, a chairman on various boards?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say it's not a meteoric rise in business, but that's fine. Thank you for the compliment. Yeah, I think for me, my parents played a big part, obviously, in my upbringing. And my mom, she always used to say to us children, never lie, never cheat, never steal. Every day she'd say it, never lie, never cheat, never steal. So I think integrity, honesty, a commitment to do things right has been a huge part of my journey in life.
And obviously some of the viewers that are watching us today come from diverse areas. We've got the haves and the have-nots. Now let's speak specifically to the have-nots and your philosophy, your guiding philosophy to that person who's watching and saying, I really want to grow, I want to expand, I want to have a level of success that's maybe in comparison to Patrick's right here, but where I am, it seems as if there's no loophole, no opportunity for me to get out of this quandary.
Yeah, so there's two lenses I look at that issue through. Number one is education. And whenever I meet young people, if I'm riding my bicycle and I pass the 5 and 6 year olds on the way to school, right up to adults, I say education is the key to success. Education is the key to success. The better educated you are, the better you're going to do in life. And I'm not necessarily talking about academic education. It may be a trade, it may be agriculture, it may be manufacturing. Learn how to do something. Someone out there, I don't know who it was, said no, something about everything and everything about something. And I think that's really important. So that's the first part,
right?
Education. The second thing that I really, really think is important is life planning.
Yeah.
And I think in life, all of us start life in a pipeline. We are born, we go to play school, we go to nursery school, we go to junior school, we go to senior school, and all that's in a pipeline. There's not really much room for maneuver. You might go to college, you might go to university, you might do a trade. And at the age of somewhere between 20 or 18 and 25, you come out and you're on this slippery thing called the globe. And you're out in the world, and for better or worse, a lot of parents at that stage, well, I've educated you, you've drained all my funds, now get out there and go and find something to do. And for me, that is when young people really need good advice.
Right.
And as I say, a lot of parents, and I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of parents say, I've educated you, you must go and do what you have to do. And I think teaching people, helping people to plan their lives, to understand what it is they're interested in, what it is they're good at, is so, so important. For my kids, I always said to them, find something you love doing and you will never work. And I can talk for hours about this, but people need to decide, where am I? You might have 6 or 7 O levels or a couple of A levels or a university degree. That's what you've got. Where do I want to be in 10 years' time, 15 years' time? And that's personal as well as professional. I'm a disciple of Success Motivation International, and their definition of success is the progressive realization of worthwhile, personal, predetermined goals. And I think there's some important words there. Number 1 is worthwhile. Number 2 is personal. You don't work to make a listed company rich. You work to make yourself rich and mostly successful and happy. Predetermined, in other words, you've thought about it. Goals, predetermined goals. So I think helping young people to understand the importance of planning is absolutely critical. In fact, if you said to me, what is the thing I'm most interested in life, that would be what it is.
That's interesting. And you bring about a very interesting point in terms of planning. We've got a situation where it's a public secret. It's a no-brainer that our economy is, in certain regards, really, really difficult to operate in. So you've got this young man, you've got this young lady who wants to plan, who wants to succeed, who wants to grow, but the daily demands, are making him unable to be able to progress, to develop themselves. And I'm asking you this one because it's a quite interesting one, that you wear so many hats. How can then one be able to balance those dynamics of, okay, I need to eat today, but I also need to plan for my future?
Yeah, and that's part of the problem I'm talking about. Even in my day, when life was easy for reasons that we all understand, it was difficult to find something to do or to find a job. And all of us get out in the world and you take the first thing that comes along. And often that's not what's right for you. So as you say, you have to be able to put bread on the table on the one hand, but at the same time, you've got to be planning and thinking, what am I good at? What am I interested in? What are the opportunities? Someone might have a contact in agriculture, in manufacturing, in mining, in IT, whatever it might be. But if you just get out there and take the first job, I always say to young people, don't look back and say, I worked for company XYZ for 40 years, I hated every day of it, and now I'm old and miserable.
Interesting dynamic there. And I don't know whether to call this the craze or the fallacy that everyone has to be an entrepreneur. Let's talk about that. Balancing between being an entrepreneur, if there's a balance at all, or going into the workforce.
Yeah, I don't think everyone is an entrepreneur. There's lots of literature out there. I've read a book called The Wealthy Employee, and a lot of people do very well by working for a company, doing well, saving, investing wisely, etc., etc. Entrepreneurs are a special brand of people, and we've got some incredible entrepreneurs in our country. I think of people like Z. Norris, Kuda Tagurai, and many, many others who are natural-born entrepreneurs. These guys, everything they touch turns to gold. Not everyone can do that. And one of the other things I always said to my kids, rule number one in life, be happy. So if you're going to be happy, you better do something that makes you happy.
Right.
And forcing yourself to be an entrepreneur when you're not one is not going to help. But there's lots of stuff you can do. Another one of my sayings I love, no teachers, no country. If you don't have teachers, you don't have a country. So many young people go into teaching and they live a wonderful life. Yes, they're not going to be the richest guy on the block, but they have the satisfaction of sending all these young people out into the world, well educated and hopefully going to achieve something. There's the sporting side, there's the cultural side. That's just one example of people who achieve massive success that is not necessarily linked to chasing the mighty dollar.
Mr. Devenish, they do say, and it's quite plain to see, that no man is an island. If you want to go far, they say, go alone. But if you want to go further, go with someone. What are some of the critical decisions or the qualities that you look at when you are deciding who to be in partnership with in business and in life?
Yeah, for me, number one, honesty and integrity. You've got to find someone that you can trust. And I've had experiences on both sides of that fence where, you meet someone, you think he's older than you, he's wiser than you, and things don't work out. So I think that's important. I think also not only does the person have to be honest, but you have to be able to build a relationship. You have to be able to understand one another, and depending how big your business is, you're going to build a team. And that's one of my other things. It's all about people. For me, you can take your AI, you can take your IT, you can take all sorts of things, equipment, everything. Without people, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So choosing the right people, developing the right people. In any organization, you've got to have training and development. Training is making a person better at the job they're doing. Development is preparing them for the next job, for the next step up the ladder. And in any in companies, your best promotions always come from within. Obviously, you bring people from outside because they bring the flair, they bring new ideas, and so on. But developing people to grow within the company is absolutely critical.
Some people find it difficult, Patrick, to move on ahead after being burned. How have you managed to forge ahead in spite of those circumstances?
Yeah, I think number one is determination. Number two is having a plan. You know, you get in the car to drive to Matari. The guy doesn't plan. He doesn't fill the car. He doesn't check the spare tire. He doesn't make sure he's got a jack. And he gets to Marandere, he runs out of petrol. Then he borrows some money, he fills the car, he has a puncture, there's no spare wheel. Whereas the organised bloke, he checks all that stuff and he makes it and he gets to Matari, no problem. So, A, you've got to have a plan. And B, you've got to be able to reset as things happen, because no plan ever works perfectly from start to finish. So as you go along, you have to adapt to changing conditions in the environment, different people you meet, different opportunities that are presented. So I think you've just got to be stoic, and you've got to keep at it. And you know, Winston Churchill said it: never, ever, ever give up.
Patrick, let's talk about balancing short-term gains in light of, you know, long-term strategy and vision for. I think this can apply both to business and to life.
When you say the word vision, it makes me straight away think of InScore. Many years ago, I started a little restaurant in town called Two Flights Up, which was above Cuthbert's on First Street. And two young men started the first Chicken Inn opposite John Boyne House in Harare. And that Chicken Inn became InScore, which is a multi-billion-dollar organization. And my little restaurant called Two Flights Up is long ago forgotten about. And the difference is purely and simply the word vision. Those two guys, Zed Norris and Michael Fowler, had the vision to build this incredible business that they've built. So I think, you know, in terms of success, you have to have that long-term vision. You have to know where you are going to be. And I'm sure they didn't plan everything to the nth degree, but they had that big picture that they were chasing. Along the way, I'm sure they had many short-term opportunities that they took advantage of. So I think have your plan and be working towards that plan, but never overlook those nice little chances you get along the way.
Interesting right there. And regarding your past experiences in business and in life again in general, what would you say was the biggest risk that you ever took, Patrick, and was it worth it?
I've started a few businesses, one of which I put, by my standards, quite a lot of money into, and for the first few years we did really well. Subsequent to that, the business became overtraded, and we're not doing well at all now. So was it worth it? Financially, definitely not. Learned a lot, helped a lot of people along the way. But, you know, no investment is guaranteed, and we've accepted that, but you can't, not everything's a winner.
Right now we've got the topical issue of AI and, you know, diverse trends and innovation. How do you ensure that you stay ahead of the curve in light of, you know, developments like this?
You're speaking to an absolute novice now. I read a lot, and I know that AI is without question going to change the world. How it's going to change the world, I'm still not sure. But I think we have to be focused on it. Zimbabwe has very, very strong IT skills. We've got so many young people out there who are good at coding, and I think those guys, those 20-something, 30-somethings, are going to be the people who take us to the world of AI. And I think it's incumbent upon all businesses and our government to ensure that there's a conducive environment that allows these guys to do as much work on understanding and utilizing AI.
And of course, we can't deny the fact or the impact of a corporate culture, how it has on profitability of any business. How do you ensure, you know, being at the helm of diverse boards, how do you ensure, and over the years, of course, having led a number of companies, how do you ensure that the ethos, the values, the vision that you embrace as an individual are instilled in the culture of the employee?
Well, I guess that's one of the most important parts of leadership. It's making sure that people buy in to your values and have those ethics and have that integrity. Today, quite a few of the boards I sit on have integrity committees. There's a new thing coming out through Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission where you take the oath of integrity. So I think that's really, really important. But culture is probably the most important thing in any organization. You know the old saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you can build a culture, an innovative culture, a culture of trust, a collegiate culture where everyone gets together, where you don't have this top guy sitting at the top of the ivory tower and all these underlings doing his bidding. If you're all working together, then I think you're going to have a very successful organization.
So in terms of building that culture and just leadership in general, what would you say are some of the key attributes or qualities of any effective and good leader?
I think the ability to trust the people you work with, the ability to develop them, as I've said earlier this afternoon. Training and development, team building, making sure that the people who achieve stuff are acknowledged as the people who achieved it. Leadership is not a popularity contest. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions, and I think that's also an important part of it. When someone doesn't fit on the bus you're riding, you've got to get them off the bus. And recruiting is probably one of the most important skills a leader can have, to make sure that you bring in those right people on board. And you can't have a company of yes men. If we all agreed, there'd only be space for one.
And in terms of just your unique edge, what do you reckon your unique attributes that have made you to be where you are? I mean, everybody has got their unique attribute that they bring into any organization that they have. What would you say are
I'd like to think the ability to give everyone voice so that everyone can be heard, to listen to their opinions, to guide meetings so the chairman knows nothing, whereas the guys who are running the business know everything, and helping them to work together and have your plan, have your strategic plan, and ensure that everyone is online, but also don't be scared to deviate when those opportunities come along.
And over here we're talking a bit about some of the other dynamics that impact a business that many might not be even aware of. I mean, you talk of geopolitical conflicts, you talk about different dynamics that might not be directly impacting your business, but indirect. What are some of those things that you reckon many leaders overlook in terms of making decisions that make sense for any organization?
Yeah, I think it's important to read a lot. I read The Economist a lot, but I think seeing what's happening in the world is critical. What's happening in Israel is very sad. What's happening in Ukraine is very sad. Watching the global economy, watching Donald Trump with his tariffs, what's that going to do? So that you're looking at the big picture and how it impacts upon you locally. I think weather is really important, sustainability is really important, viability is really important. So I think the higher up you are, the further you have to go in the helicopter so that you can see that big picture.
So in terms of and we were just really drawing towards the end of this conversation, how do you prioritize what to spend your time on doing as a leader? What's the decision-making process there?
Yeah, well, what I do is I have a list of all my various responsibilities, and I have a very detailed diary. I plan my year. I'm already planning next year now, when all my meetings are, when all my leisure activities are. But you got to live a life. You know, some people love to work. That's their hobby.
Yeah.
For me, I've got other interests. I like golf. I like fishing. So you plan. I just plan my life like that, and I've got all the meetings detailed, which allows me basically to do what I want when I want, because I like to believe that I don't sit on any board or any institution that I don't want to be at. I do it because I like doing it.
What advice, Patrick, would you give your 20-year-old self?
I would say get educated, network, and make a plan for your life.
Right. Did you catch that when you were 20, or is something that you found
No.
over the years?
Took me till I was 40 to work that out.
So it's never too late, really?
It's never too late. Well, you know, we all know the story. Colonel Sanders, yeah, there you go.
KFC, there you go.
And lots of other people. Lots of other people. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, you know, our time is fast running out on us. Thank you so much, firstly, for coming through. But what would you say your parting shots to everybody who's watching you right now?
Make sure you live a happy life.
That's it.
That's it.
All right, that's it. Make sure you live a happy life. Those are the words of Patrick Devenish, who was with us today, just, you know, finding out a bit more about himself and just the life lessons that he's had to go through to be where he is, and we're gleaning all that wisdom from him. So until next time, thank you for watching.